Hi, welcome to Sound Thinking. I'm Marty Duda, and today we have Jeff Neems. He's going to be reviewing the new Liam Gallagher, John Squire album. Veronica Belle has the scoop on Faye Webster's new one. It's called Underdressed at the Symphony. Graham Reid is taking on the Bevis Frond's Focus on Nature, and I'm going to tell you all about a new album by a local group or a guy called Spindle. So we'll start things off with probably the one that people might be most interested in hearing about, or curious about at least. Jeff, you've got Liam Gallagher and John Squire, a guy from Oasis and a guy from the Stone Roses. Is it a marriage made in heaven?
I think it depends on what you went in expecting and hoping for, Marty. I guess a little bit of context would be helpful here. As I've noted in my review that you posted to the website, I lived in London twice in the 90s, back when Graham was writing so astutely for the New Zealand Herald, and I remember the Britpop. The Britpop dominance of the period. Sure. We couldn't get away from Blur and Oasis and lots of other bands that had a single word for a name. Some others included Elastica, Travis, Suede, Pulp, of course, were another one as well. But the sound was massive. It was just all-consuming, really, for the British music media and the British mainstream media as well. And I mean, I sort of took a partial interest in it, but I guess what fascinated me was the way the media framed the battle between Oasis, who of course were fronted by the Gallagher brothers, Noel the guitarist and primary songwriter, and Liam the singer, who really was sort of little more than a drunken loudmouth git, to be honest.
With a whiny voice.
With a whiny voice. Well, yeah, I mean, whiny's nasal is definitely the way to describe it, I think. And so those two bands really just absolutely dominated the charts, and they dominated the sort of music consciousness of the period. But I was never really a fan. The Stone Roses, on the other hand, are probably one of my two or three favourite British acts. And I think they were sort of hard done by, really, that legal wrangles throughout their career never really allowed them to flourish the way they could. The first album was just a truly remarkable work, and what made it such a success for me, as well as the vocal delivery by the guy whose name is Ian Brown. Ian Brown's vocals was the guitar work and the compositions by John Squire, the guitarist. And when the Stone Roses reformed, to many people's surprise, a few years ago, and did a series of concerts around the world, I went to the show at Bector, and it was remarkable. I thought they were brilliant. But to quickly fast forward to this record, it's fairly much straight-ahead British rock, Marty. It's kind of what you'd expect. Liam Gallagher, to his credit, seems to have improved his singing.
Yeah, I saw him at the Spark Arena last year. I've never been a big fan of his voice at all. I was very impressed with his show that he put on. So
yeah, I mean, he's got swagger, which is, I think, what appeals to a lot of people. I always think of him as that sort of moppy-haired guy with Adidas old school sneakers and jeans, and sort of, as I mentioned before, sort of sauntering around rather like a spoilt child, and sort of throwing pints in pubs, and sort of snarling at the crowd and being Mr. Cool and Mr. Aggro. But on this record, he actually sings pretty well. I think what lets it down is the quality of the songs, which really is just a bit dull. I noted in my review that there's one song on there called "I'm So Bored," which was sort of how I felt listening to the album second time. I listened to it a couple of times today in the office while I was busy working for the government in my day job, and I sort of thought, well, there's just nothing here that really stands out. I mean, it's rather formulaic, rather obvious. I mean, Squire's a great guitarist, and he gets to flourish a little bit on this album, but there's not a lot of innovation. There's no boundaries pushed. I mean, it feels to me like the sort of record or the sort of album that you would hear in a British pub while you were sinking your tenants with your mates on the way to a Millwall football club game or something. Wanted a lot, like a lot of the albums, unfortunately, Marty, that I've reviewed for you recently. I wanted and hoped for a lot more than I actually got.
All right.
I mean, it's not going to win over any new fans, but if you liked either of the bands that these two guys came from, you're probably going to go into it and enjoy it, because it follows the familiar path that they take. I mean, just thinking here about some of the lyrics, there's a few that are a bit cliche. I mean, I picked out a few here for my review. It talks about the sunniness of the sun, the blueness of the sky, regrets about feelings and behaviour and drunken nights. A lot of rock cliche. There's sunlight in someone's hair. Someone has to get out of somewhere. I mean, maybe I'm expecting too much from contemporary rock and roll and hoping for a bit more than this. But as you know, Marty, I listen to a lot of rap music, and storytelling is fundamental in rap music. And I felt like this album really lacked a bit of storytelling.
Right.
So
Do we have a track we want to hear? Let's play something.
Well, I mean, the opening single, I think it's called "Over the Rainbows" or "In the Rainbows" or something. That's not too bad.
Just another rainbow.
Another rainbow. Yeah, just another rainbow.
Yes, another rainbow.
All right. Well, let's give that a spin, and then we'll come back and see what we think of it.
Yeah.
All right, that's just another rainbow. Liam Gallagher, John Squire. I got a kind of psychedelic Tomorrow Never Knows kind of vibe from that one. But they're always referring back to the Beatles. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, and I think that the Beatles comment there is interesting, Marty, because that's where that whole sort of Britpop, sort of late 80s, early 90s British rock sound points back to that, and sort of the Jam and those sort of sort of punk bands of the 70s. But the album doesn't really go anywhere, and I guess a bit more variety would have kept my interest a lot longer than it did.
Did you happen to catch the? I got a Hendrix vibe out of the following track. It's called "Love You Forever."
Yes.
Yeah. Right. There you go.
Exactly. Martin.
Yeah. There you go.
Exactly.
So I think I like the album a little more than you did, Jeff, because especially in the middle there was the Beatles thing, then the Hendrix thing, and then they had a little bit later there was a song called "You're Not the Only One." It was kind of a Jerry Lee Lewis rockery kind of thing with the piano. So yeah. Veronica, do you have any idea what we're talking about?
This is going to be a controversial opinion.
Okay, bring it on.
I hate Oasis.
I never liked them either. I never liked them either.
I'm sorry. I literally can't get behind it. I'm so sorry. Like it's the as Jeff said, the very beta kind of like poetry. It's giving half-ass. I'm so sorry.
Fair enough.
I'm so sorry. It's gonna be savage this week.
All right, well, that's all right. I feel a similar way to Oasis. I think they had one good song, which is "Don't Look Back in Anger," which was the best song that Mott the Hoople never did. But other than that,
so it's not the mainstream.
You had to work Mott the damn Hoople.
I can't help it.
You had to get Mott the Hoople.
But it's true. I can imagine Mott doing that song. It sounds just like one of their best tunes that they never did. But anyway, what did you think of the album, Graham?
Okay, I think we put it in the context. I was in the UK at that time, and I interviewed Liam and Noel and what's his name, Damon, and all those, many of those people.
Just name dropping there.
And I actually saw a really great Oasis show. I think it was like a week after they just played Wembley, and they played this basketball stadium in not Manchester, somewhere else, Birmingham or something. And I remember what one guy in the NME said, watching Oasis play, you might as well hold a postcard picture of them up and just kind of move it around like that. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. There was bugger all visually going on, but my God, it was amazing. They were really on the top of their game at that point. So I think it was after the second album, when they really were world beaters. And I get what you're saying, Jeff, about the swagger. I'm pretty sure we had a curry and a pint before we went to see them, and it was that kind of night. You were on the terraces at Millwall or Manchester City or whatever it is. But in terms of this album, I have a couple of things to say about it. Certainly Liam needed to do something new. I listened to the BDI things, which were pretty bloody dull. But then I think he actually hit a bit of a pace with As You Were, which is an interesting, more, when I say interesting, we're still suspending judgment on it. It was pretty good. But then, Why Me, Why Not? In 2019, I thought, oh, man, this guy is actually doing something now. He's certainly still in the zone. He's appealing to Oasis people, as he did at that gig here. Yeah. And the thing about that is that I always thought, Noel always wanted to be Paul Weller. That's always been my thinking. Yeah. Whereas Liam just thought, oh, fuck it, I'm a rock and roll star. I'm just going to be Liam Gallagher. And he just kept being Liam. And that really worked on Why Me, Why Not, I thought. But then, unfortunately, after that, what did we get? We got the live at Nebworth and we got the live at the Thames. And, half of each of those albums were old Oasis songs. And he recognised his audience. I get that. And so you come to this one, and I just thought, well, yeah, it's stoned Oasis is what it is.
Yeah.
We love being stoned. Like, let's be for real. Okay.
They can arrest you for that, Veronica, and we know where.
But listen, all I want, I'm just chilling, and I'm eating pizza. Like, I'm not killing no one. It's not that deep, guys.
She might have a prescription.
I do actually. Thank you, Jeff.
But,
oh man!
But, when I heard this album, I thought, yeah, it's the sum of two parts, and just another rainbow. I thought, oh yeah, when it starts, it's just fucking Oasis. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's that middle bit, and you go, oh, this is the guitar wig out, and then as Marty says at the end, it's the Beatles. What I thought was really interesting is that John Squire, is the guitar hero. We get that, and I really loved Stone Roses. I just thought, like you, Jeff, there was something very special and magical about that. That first album just kept playing it and playing it. Even when it was playing backwards, you just thought, my God, these guys are gifted, But John Squire on this album suddenly becomes this almost like old school Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix guitar hero. And, I'm just thinking Love You Forever is, very, very much Jimi Hendrix. And then, was it I Am the Wheel? But, man, he's gone back.
Yeah, blues riff on that thing, right?
1960s,
yeah, definitely.
Blues tropes. Absolutely nothing original about
That's
this
a fact.
on any level at all. But for me, if I was an Oasis fan and maybe even still a Stone Roses fan, I'd be drinking beer to this.
Yeah, there you go.
I wouldn't play it that often. I'd certainly play it more often than the last two, live Liam albums. And I thought it was a serviceable album. And if they pursue this path and get more interesting, I'll stick with them.
Okay.
But at the moment, I still think it's like a holding action for both of them.
Yep. All righty. I'll let you have the last word, Jeff.
Jeff,
Yeah,
what
thanks. Graham, absolutely agree with everything you said there. I guess what it misses from the Stone Roses sound is the funkiness. It doesn't have that funkiness that the Stone Roses have, and
No
that's
doubts.
what attracted me to their album. And you guys mentioned that it feels a bit almost cliche, classic rocky. And if it had had the sort of more of the funky element, more of the soulful element, I think I would have been a lot more interested and a lot more enthusiastic than I was.
All righty.
I absolutely agree. You know, it's not an album that you dance to. It's an album you sort of put your fists in the air to.
Yep.
And we've got enough of those in the world. Let's start.
All right, moving on. Faye Webster, Veronica Belle. I just kind of laid that one on you. Have you heard of Faye before you listened to this record, Veronica?
No, sir, I had not. Do you know what? Every week I'm like, I don't know who that is, but this is the whole greatness of this podcast, right? You have an opportunity to find new music that you may not have found otherwise. Yep. Okay, when I listen, I want to preface this by saying when I listened to her Spotify stuff, really, really liked it. It was sort of really vulnerable and quite sincere in the delivery in which she gives in her records, and I really enjoy it. This is not this album, but I'm just saying, in her already released Spotify stuff, I thought that things were really well mixed. I thought that the mastering was really good. I felt like the words were very, very clear to hear. So overall, this album is pretty good, okay, but I do have some reservations. So,
okay. Shall we listen to a track and then discuss your reservations?
Absolutely.
What shall we start with?
Okay, my standout track is Lifetime, actually.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll play that and then we'll find out why you like it so much.
Can't imagine me before you in a lifetime. In a lifetime. When I said I mean it, didn't really mean it. In a lifetime. In a lifetime.
What I really like about this track in particular is the instrumentation and the way in which the vocals have been delivered and then recorded. It is very clear to me that it seems to me that Faye is playing into this, what I call like calligraphy type font singing. It's almost as if she is using her accent that she like genuinely has to sing in that kind of voice. So I think by this time in the album, I kind of understood what she was trying to do. At this point, I think that this is the track that really showcases her voice the best. I think it really showcases her songwriting the best. Though I will say that it was fairly difficult to understand some of the songs that she was singing. I don't know whether it was the mix. I don't know whether it was the master. I'm not too sure, but I did find it quite difficult.
So is it important to you to be able to hear the lyrics and understand what they're
saying? Well, yeah,
saying?
especially if somebody labels themselves as a singer-songwriter. Like, I'm not expecting Mariah Carey vocals, but I am expecting to hear what you're talking about, which is why I was a little... You know, in her release stuff on Spotify, it's really, really clear and really, really good. But I don't know whether it was the files that we were seeing. I'm not entirely too sure. But it's a really strange amalgamation of artists that I could kind of think of upon the first listen on the first song. So I kind of felt like it was a mixture between Britney Spears, Phoebe Bridgers, with a little bit of Kiwi artist Paige in there. Like, if that's kind of like the melting pot that I put it into. it's the way in which I would describe her voice, particularly in thinking about you. I would say it's summery, it's a little bit shimmery, a little bit stone vibes. Okay,
Oh, that
there we go. A transcendence through a prism of beautifully collected chords is what I have written here. Now, But Not a Kiss, which is a focus track, it's super avant-garde. It's definitely a challenging listen through, and not for somebody like myself who's a music enthusiast, but I imagine for somebody who maybe listens to top 40 or something like that, they would think, whoa, this is super wacky and super weird. But what I liked the most about this track is how can you mash country and the beach at the same time? That's the kind of vibe that I got from this track. I don't know how she did it, but I love how she incorporated the use of symphonic techniques to give color and texture to this track in particular, to kind of really emulate almost you could kind of hear the feel of the sand. You could kind of feel this kind of like, I'm in the nature, I'm in the country, I'm having a good, I'm living my best life.
That was But Not
a Kiss, yeah.
Right.
What I really want to talk about, though, this is like the super outlier of this whole record, and that's this track that she had featured with Little Yachty, I guess, in New Zealand.
You got it.
and Little Yachty, but it's like Little Yachty, right? Okay.
Well, they're both from Atlanta,
Okay.
Georgia, so we should. I think they went to school together, to high school.
Oh, see, that makes a lot of sense, because I was thinking this is the least likely pairing that I would have,
They're buddies from way back.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of says it's this weird amalgamation of jazz, Olivia Rodrigo, but then in comes Little Yachty. But why does this whole track kind of give me the ick? Surely there could have been better collaborations if she wanted to go into this realm. Case in point, Post Malone would have been a far better and more appropriate option. From 220 onwards, it's like chaos, but not. It wasn't for me, and I never ever want to sit there and say that it's bad music, because I think that music really is. It's up to you, right? But it super challenging to listen to.
Sunny, my new ring stick like honey. My work attire came all black like tires. And me and you, the dream team, always together like string beans. Your left hand up in every pick, 'cause your Lego ring is sick.
I would have loved it if that part wasn't there. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I swear I'm okay. I say this every time. This whole, okay, I've written here, okay, in my notes, right?
We don't need to call somebody.
They've already been called, okay?
Okay, right.
They're waiting outside.
Listen. I said this, honestly, this music is in the best possible way. Oh my God. I don't know if I can say this live. Music to take acid to and then self-harm at the beach while simultaneously being taken away to another world with the love of your life. A hallucination, maybe? I don't know. As long as it comes with a lyric sheet, I don't really care at this point. I don't know what the lyrics are.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that.
Okay, I've said this before, I'm an emo girly, okay? I love
Yeah.
music that is talking about some real shit. Okay, I really genuinely appreciate it. So if the music kind of makes you feel that way, I think that that's a huge compliment. I think music is there to invoke some sort of feeling. So if it's invoking something, it's good. It's good in its own way. I just, I'm sorry, Marty, I cannot get past the mixing of the vocals. I wish
Okay. All
that
right.
it was clearer. Overall, it's not a bad album. Truly, I feel like it was more of a mixtape to me than an album. As opposed, with an album, I feel like every song should cohesively transcend into the other one and kind of like maybe
Right. Right.
reference previous tracks. I kind of felt like that this was a mishmash of just like random maybe demos that she really, really liked and she really wanted to finish. That's not a problem. That's not the issue. It felt more of a mixtape than an album to me.
Okay.
But she's a phenomenal songwriter. Once I sat down and was able to decipher the lyrics, she's a phenomenal songwriter. And I just hope that on streaming platforms, it'll just sound a little bit better. That's all.
All righty. Let's throw it out to the panel. Jeff and Graham, what do you have? Thoughts about this record?
Go first, Graham.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I talk way too much.
No, no, Veronica, I'm very glad you picked out Lifetime. I just thought that's the absolute standout for me. I loved its kind of ambient quality. I just thought, now this is an intelligence at work. I really did like that. But Not Kiss, I like that because of the piano repetition and all that kind of thing. But then I just got utterly turned off by Feeling Good Today. That overuse of auto-tune, I just thought was an absolute appalling affectation.
All right.
And like you, I'd love to have heard what she was saying. And Lego Ring again. I just thought I listened to those two pieces, and I think Feeling Good Today is about 90 seconds long. I mean, it's not a substantial piece. Might be Lego again, but I just thought. These are slight ideas that have been, pushed into something in the studio.
Yep. See?
And so over the long haul, I did find it a long haul, and which you should never do. I just thought, well, this is not an album. This is some bits and pieces, possibly a mixtape, as you say. It's like, here's a few ideas, which I've got the money to do in the studio, and I will do this. But really, Feeling Good Today, I just thought that was an absolute bullshit, And
There you go.
there's no way around that, I don't think. There's no song there. There's nothing going on. And it's auto-tuned into this affectation of pop music.
You're an icon, Graham.
Lifetime, but Not Kiss. Two great singles. They're not an album, mate.
All right. Jeff, what do you think?
That's my 40 cents worth.
Well, agreed largely with Graham. I've managed to simplify my opinion here down into one phrase. It's sad girl, emo waft pop, which goes nowhere.
I love
All right.
that. I think that's fabulous. What a fabulous explanation.
Feel free to
I
use
will.
it.
I
Feel free to
will.
use it. Even make some.
I do. Have you not listened already?
Now
must have missed that one.
the whole thing, yes. No, I think I like the album a little more than the rest of you guys.
I knew you would.
I thought, Thinking About You, the opening track had a very warm kind of vibe to it that made me feel all warm and fuzzy. So that kind of drew me in, I think. And I liked the pedal steel guitar that kind of came in and out.
That was nice. I did like that too.
And I felt like I was listening to an album. It was a little different here and there, but it didn't blow me away. But I think I reacted to it better than the rest of you. But there you go. That's what we're here.
Sorry, Marty.
Sort out. All righty. Now, speaking of sorting out, Graham, what the heck are you talking about here? You got the Bevis Frond. It's one of those bands or acts that's been around forever that I don't think I've ever actually listened to, but they made about 1,000 records.
Indeed, they have, Marty, and it's very nice of you to point that out. A few years ago, like, gosh, a long time ago, 2015, 16, I have this area on my website, my Elsewhere website, where I have We Need to Talk About.
Yeah.
And that is, we need to talk about this artist because why? Because they murdered their kids or their wife, or they made their own instruments, or they were just plain weird and different, And we need to talk about some of these people. And in 2016, I wrote about We Need to Talk About Bevis Frond, which is actually just the vehicle for this guy called Nick Salomon. He's out of London, Walthamstow in London, which is, I'm sure when he was growing up in Walthamstow, it was a pretty low rent area, but it's not now. It's, gentrification has taken it over. But in 2016, when I wrote about him, I was really late to the party. At that point, he'd released about 25 albums. And so, he's one of those guys who just sort of keeps doing it because he can. Because he's a gifted songwriter, I think a gifted songwriter, within the parameters of genres. Let me just make that clear. What you hear when he plays is not enormously innovative, but within the genre that he chooses, and it can be psychedelic rock or folk pop or alt indie rock, he just comes on like, wow, he's just kind of nailed that genre. At that point, I was sort of interested in him because there'd been a whole bunch of reissues that come out. And so I just sort of kept reminding people on my website, well, this is who this guy is. Unfortunately, the next one that came along was called We're Your Friends, Man, and it wasn't that good. But in 2021, he did this, I think, a fantastic double album called Little Eden. I chose it as one of the best albums of the year because he took all those genres, psychedelic rock, indie rock, ballads, blah, blah, blah. He took all that and sort of applied it to a contemporary view of Britain. And he's always been one of those observational songwriters. I would put him in that category of Ray Davies in the 60s, not Ray Davies now, but in that sort of category. And he's a really, really smart cookie. So now he has come back, and he's come back with another double album.
That's just what we need.
Because he's one of those unconstrained guys. And this new album, he just kind of holds up a mirror yet again, as he did on Little Eden, about these sort of dysfunctional times. What's happening with the assault on the landscape, misguided thinking that growth is progress. Now, he somehow manages to put that all into songs which remind me, I guess sometimes of Pavement or Sonic Youth or people like that. Okay. But he's not without humour. And so the first track I thought we could play is him questioning himself about standing in the rain outside a gig to see another shitty band. But then he, it's like a Lemonhead song. He says, I'm not here for them. I'm here for the other one, like the opening act. So let's have a listen to that one, Marty.
Okay.
I'm here for the other one, and I'm fine if you carry on. I don't want you to get me wrong, but you're not my thing.
All right, back with the Bevis Frond and Graham Reid's take on their focus on nature, all 19 tracks.
It's a big monster. There's no doubt about that. But his last one was the same, and I find them enduring because, in the same way that I've find Husker Du. They can do a double album with just it's gripping all the way.
Right.
And this guy is a bit like that because there's a sense of urgency in a lot of his songs, particularly at the moment. He's into this idea of, the urgency of climate change. I mean, this sounds really worthy, but it doesn't come off like that. The denial and anger, about what's going on in the world. He is also a remarkably incendiary guitarist. When he wants to, he can just unleash it, and not in that kind of way that sort of 60s rock guitarists would, because after all, that's the period he grew up in. But in a much more focused, like Replacements, Husker Du
Right.
kind of thing. So I just thought, mate, this is the opener, and it's called Heat. And he said, I'm so tired of scary ecological forecasts. We're all going down in the flames. It's all about money, and everybody's talking about the heat. So this is the opener on the album. It's called Heat. He also does these really great sort of alt pop songs, which you just think, oh man, that is, who didn't write that before? Everybody wrote that song before, but he kind of pulls it off. And I just thought maybe we got it wrong, which has a message, but it struck me as like, a solo song by Paul Westerberg.
Oh, there you go.
Of the Replacements, that kind of thing. So if you give us 30 seconds of this, we'll throw it open to the panel and people can tell me exactly why I've got it wrong.
All right, maybe we got it wrong. New music from the Bevis Frond. Graham Reid it sounds like you like the album. You give it a thumbs up, eh?
I do, but it's one of those things where sometimes you like somebody and maybe your critical opinion just goes out the window. But as I said previously, I think it was about Brittany Howard. I said that's an album I'm going to go out and buy on vinyl. I will certainly buy this one on vinyl, just like I bought Little Eden, and I will play it repeatedly. Sure, in the knowledge that not a single one of my friends will ever hear it, ever be interested, and couldn't give a shit. They're wrong, and they are wrong.
Great. Veronica, does that include you?
I actually, okay.
Free shot.
Okay, I do actually have a question. Is the album a double album, or is it just an album with 18 tracks?
19. And
No,
it is a double album. Yeah,
it is a double. Oh, okay, right. Okay, because
I think the last song is about 7 minutes long.
It was, sorry, when we were sent the link, it was like a little bit unclear whether it was one full album, because the thing that I said here was I just don't think 18 tracks for an album is necessary. I would have rather it have been like a part 1 and part 2. So I'm so glad that is actually what it was like. I said I love a lot of the instrumentation, probably more than the vocal delivery. It sort of gives me Placebo vibes, maybe with a little bit of the early Red Hot Chilies.
Okay.
They absolutely killed the lyrics though. Really, really beautiful. But something that really did let the album down, some of the editing just isn't it. Like, I would rather have the album completely recorded live and in one studio, as opposed to adding some very obvious extras that were recorded with very obviously a different microphone, like super close like this. Like it was just super obvious to me. But I really liked it. I think, to be honest, it was my favorite album this week. This particular one.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Jeff, what do you think?
I
You're
only
a
got a
keeper, Veronica. You are a keeper.
She is. She's good, ain't she?
Do you agree?
Knock me out, Jeff. Knock me out, Jeff.
No, I only got a chance to listen to a very brief smidgen of this. It was probably just didn't really get the opportunity. But I mean, I'm going to defer to Graham's judgment here, and if he's going to name drop bands like The Replacements and Husker Du and Sonic Youth and Pavement as acts that this band sounds like, I'm probably going to go back and have a listen and see what I think. So yeah, didn't quite get to this one, Marty,
That's
but
all right.
trust Graham's
There's a
judgment.
lot to listen to this week, so
Yeah.
which brings us.
So
Yeah,
maybe I can throw one more in that'll really appeal to Marty. Blue Oyster
Oh, there you
Cult
go,
too,
Bernard.
Marty.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
That's a good song. I like that
You
one.
got.
Played all the aces now.
You know me so well, Graham. Yeah, can't go wrong with BOC. All right. Now, speaking of a lot of music to listen to, there's this local act, an Auckland act called Drop Spindle, which is a guy named Alexander Matthews. And he has released an album called Baby. And apparently he just released another album on February 1st called Grown Up. This is Baby. And then he's got 2 more albums waiting in the wings to release in the next first. But this one here has got 30 tracks on it. Yeah. So
I'm waiting, Marty.
well,
I'm waiting.
I didn't quite get through the whole thing because there's only so much time in everyone's day.
I love this show so much.
I mean, it's not so he's basically a singer-songwriter with an acoustic guitar
That's
and a bunch of songs, and he's playing them out. And he's recording away, obviously, a lot, and somewhere in Auckland here. And so we'll play the first track on it. It's called "Please Don't Leave Me Alone," and then we can take it from there. So this is Drop Spindle.
Oh, so softly, talk to me now like I'm a little kid. 'Cause it's getting louder, all these voices in my head. Will you wait for me right at the end? Please don't leave me alone, please don't leave me alone, I said.
All right, that's Drop Spindle. Please Don't Leave Me Alone. Track 1 of about 30 on his new album. I know. So in general, I mean, so you're a musician, Veronica. What do you think about the idea of just putting out all this material out there? I mean, what's the point? Does it make sense to you? I mean, nobody's going to listen. Nobody has time.
Absolutely not. Listen, do you want me to read out what I said about this album?
Please, yes.
Excuse me, just one moment.
Yep. Oh, she has a little sip.
Respectfully, no amount of whiskey and cigars could make me like this. I have no idea what's fucking going on. Respectfully, I bet this guy absolutely slays on the live scene, but I don't know. These recorded vocals are just not hitting. Great lyrics, though. It's just not really singing. It sounds like a drawl to me.
All right. Yep. Well, okay. Very
Sorry.
good. And he does have some interesting lyrics. There's a song called Kobe, which I'm assuming is about Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. So that kind of drew me in a little bit. And he throws in little snippets of commentaries and things, which helps break up, just the fact that it's his voice and guitar for.
It's great lyrics.
songs.
It's great lyrics.
Yeah. So, and there was a line about, on Move to the Music, you look like your mother who looks like Joan Jett. So I thought that.
Is that giving MILF or like, sorry.
I
don't know.
So, no, I don't think it's bad. It's just that
MILF
there's
is
just
never
too much
bad,
of it.
Marty. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Jeff, did you listen to any of this?
Yes, I did. I listened to the first 4 or 5 tracks during a break in my busy day, and it was okay. Veronica just made a comment, I think, about was it you, Marty? Someone made a comment there about the lyrics, which struck me as interesting.
Yep.
But 30 songs is a lot, and perhaps a little self-indulgent if you're going to try and cram that much music onto one album. I mean, I own albums with 30 songs, but they're your sort of 3-disc career spanning collections, or every song is 90 seconds and it's just beats. So if I was Drop Spindle, great name by
Yeah.
the way. If I was Drop Spindle, I'd probably curb my enthusiasm a little and put out a shorter album that hopefully held people's attention for a bit longer.
Well, like I said, he's got another one coming out next month and another one the month after. So
Wow. Do you know what? I
you
got
have been warned.
well done to the work ethic, for real. I'm a big believer in, quality, not necessarily quantity. I feel like, to be honest, I feel like in this day and age, artists feel so compelled to continuously release new music to stay relevant, because there's this, like, you kind of have this mishmash of the younger generation consuming content in half the time. Like, they get bored really, really, really quickly. But I think with that in mind, it's better to just have a smaller amount of work that hits super hard and just go with that, because his lyrics are really great. It's just it's very long.
Yeah, very long. Yes, very good. All righty. Well, that covers the 4 albums.
May I
Please,
just
Graham.
say
Of course.
something about this? I think, Jeff, you and I both worked in print journalism, so we understand the word of editing.
Yeah.
We get this guy really needs to self-edit a lot. I tried to listen to Kobe, and I just thought, Jesus Christ, there is so much anxiety and anger, or whatever it is, poured into just that one song.
Yes.
And then I get some of it, like there's a sort of folk element, but it was like the Incredible String Band had grown up in a bar in Dublin rather than a Scottish field, like it was just like all out there. But, even Springsteen and Steve Earle and John Mellencamp, they know how to leaven what they do. This just kept coming at you. And frankly, I just gave up.
Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! Oh! He banks in the 3! And the Lakers win the game!
Waiting tables, your dream is big. Your life is a fable. You dare not tell anyone, but for the kitchen hand, on the day you were done, collect your tips from the piano stool. You play through the night time just to pay for school. And the boulevard was always there for you. And they know the mama like a horse in a stable, but he's waiting for you in the city of angels, the city of love.
And now you're telling me there's another album. So, I'm sorry, but, this really needs to... He just might want to think about what he's doing and just consider, is all this information, A, necessary? And, is it edited in a way which makes sense to people? Or is it just one thing after another?
Yep.
I get that. I mean, if I might just say, to tell this anecdote. I went to Vietnam in 1995, and, when nobody was going there, it had just opened up for tourism again after the war. I'd been there during the war. And in 1995, I went there, and I came back, and I wrote this big story for the Herald. And it was really big, and it was impressive, and I loved it, and I thought I was so proud. And somebody said to me, I really liked your stories about Vietnam. And I said, well, there was just one. And this person said, no, there weren't. There were 4 stories in there. You just wrote them in one. And I thought, you're absolutely right. I tried to put everything in there, And that's how I feel about what, Alex Matthews is
Right.
doing. He's trying to get it all out there. And sometimes you pull on the handbrake and you just wait.
Yeah, there you go. All right. And there's because Veronica, I think you used the term urgency for the previous record, and here it's intensity in his vocal, and there's only so much of that you can take one after another, and then it loses its effect anyway.
One track,
the intensity.
maybe. That's all.
Like there's a tune called Tombstone, which was I think the third one, and so you probably all heard that one maybe. And it got pretty intense, and there was something about Kiwi jams in there and all that. So there were some interesting lyrics going on, but it got lost in the intensity, I think.
He's kinda hot, man. Got the drinks going, and what's that? My girl ain't woke, probably dreaming those bed sheets soaking wet. Sun through the window, sleep getting tight. I said, hey man, turn the radio up. What's the station? Those Kiwi jams. I said, my band, the last stand, like the Tombstone. West End, all those cowboys, girls rocking on a Friday night. Blue jeans, leather boots, I think you're alright. He's kind of Tombstone, drawing your gun for the love fight.
Drop Spindle, that's it. Now, we always tend to have good conversations at the end of all the music. And, of course, this is the day after the whole TV3 debacle has gone down with just around the corner.
Travesty.
I'm right around the corner from TV3, so I went over there just after 11 o'clock yesterday morning and saw everybody. There was guards everywhere, and people were filing out. And there was a group of people standing on the sidewalk at 11:30 in the morning looking for a bar that was open. So
honestly, valid.
It's pretty bad, and it's probably going to get worse rather than better. And the reason is because, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is to try and stimulate some music journalism. But journalism in general is obviously not being respected or being valued at all, and that's why we're down to one TV station, which is government run and nothing independent anymore. And I'm interested in hearing what you guys thought when you heard about all that yesterday.
Well, as a former New Zealand Herald journalist, I'll just weigh in very quickly. It's an absolute tragedy on a personal level. I remember reading once that every person killed in a road accident directly affects 10 other people. So you multiply it by 10. So if we're talking about 300 people losing their jobs, that's 3,000 in this city that just lost their jobs, and that's directly impacted. So let's take the journalism stuff out of it, because, I see online already people are sort of starting to say nonsense about, you deserve it. Blah, blah. You were left wing or right wing or whatever bullshit people prefer to think about in the media. But on a personal, on a human level, 300 people are losing their jobs. That would seem to be the nature of it, which means 3,000 people are directly affected. And then you've got, where TV3 is in Auckland. Galbraith is going to be affected. All little cafes and bars around there are going to be affected. This is not good news on any level. On a simply economic level, that is just terrible. Let alone whatever is happening in the news media. The news media is imploding. Bits are flying off left, right, and centre. And it's all very well for people to say, people are getting their news from elsewhere. Actually, no, they're not. They're getting their goddamn opinions from elsewhere. That's all they're getting. They're just getting some bullshit that reinforces what they think, because they're not going to other media. They're doing their own research, whatever the hell that means these days. And so, this is a terrible, terrible thing to have happened in the news media landscape. And I think that the glib comments that I am seeing now just speak to how little regard people have for the information they need, not just what they want, but what they need to make informed judgments. But, people don't give a shit about that anymore.
Yeah.
People don't want information. They want their opinion, validated.
Reinforced.
And believe me, as you and I know, that will absolutely happen on whatever, internet website or whatever. Yeah. So I really feel for those people. So sudden.
Yep. It's
And we know where are the jobs in journalism and PR these days. They can't even move sideways.
yeah.
So
That's true. So Veronica,
that's
I'm curious, Veronica,
that's
do you
my
watch
full
the news?
What? Yes, of course I watch the news.
No, but I mean, like, do you watch 6 o'clock news on TV?
Yes.
Okay.
I love the news.
Because I'm just wondering if it's a thing that people do still.
I think because when I grew up, that was a huge part of, us coming together as a family after everyone's, had their work day, we would sit, we watch the news, we'd have our dinner, we'd have a conversation, that kind of thing. Listen, I feel like I'm sort of the wild card sometimes. I say some real controversial shit, but what I will say is I think that it is a genuine travesty that there is only going to be one news outlet in this country that I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. It's giving Agenda 2030. Okay, read into that however you like. It's just, I think that having one exclusive news media agency in a country kind of doesn't allow challenging opinions. It doesn't allow a rebuttal. It doesn't allow people to see the other side, maybe to challenge what's being spoken about on the previous news channel. So I just, I definitely really feel for all of those people who have lost their jobs. Where the hell are they going to go? What jobs are they going to have? But most, it's defined most important. But I think, ultimately the New Zealand nation is going to miss out on having a second opinion and be, I guess, encouraged to challenge their previous thoughts on societal issues, whatever they may be.
All right. And Jeff, I'm guessing you have something to say about it.
Yeah, I do, and I agree 100% with what Graham has mentioned before. I haven't always been a fan of News Hub, but I have always been a fan of a 6 p.m. news bulletin. And Veronica, I am encouraged to hear that you are someone in your generation who still checks out a 6 p.m. news bulletin, because I think you are in a minority in terms of your
that's
demographic.
A shame.
It is a shame. It is absolutely. It is a shame. I was brought up by a father who never missed the 6 p.m.
Same.
news, and that was ingrained in me. And so tonight I missed the 6 p.m. news because I'm doing the podcasts, but I will check it later on. As Graham touched on, I mean, I've been really, really shocked by some of the comments that I've seen on social media. You deserve it, about time, you reap what you sow, good job, all this kind of nonsense. While at times I've had issues with some of News Hub's reporting and some of the narratives and the angles, the key point here for me is that you need many media voices in an open democracy to, as Graham said, to challenge authority, and not just government agencies, but to challenge corporate authority, to challenge non-profit authority, to challenge sporting leaders, to challenge athletes, to challenge musicians, to challenge film directors. And if you take away one very loud, impactful voice that presents that challenge to those people, you deny the audience another opportunity to hear what they need to say. And yeah, I'm very concerned about the mediascape in New Zealand at the moment. I miss being a regular working journalist, no doubt about it. I was very fortunate to meet and interview some people I greatly admired. But it's been 13 years since I got out of it now, and as I look back on it with what's happened this week, I'm kind of glad I got out, because it's going through a massive shift. The business model does not appear to work anymore. I think the pandemic, as has been documented in some excellent documentary films that I've seen, the pandemic opened the door for a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of fringe alternative views that aren't necessarily bedded in reality. I also think at times the media has itself to blame. I mean, Veronica, block your ears. I'm going to say something negative about Taylor Swift.
Oh, please. Oh, my gosh, she's a billionaire.
I worry that the celebrification of news is part of the reason the general public is turning off.
I agree. Celebrity worship is crazy.
Yeah, and it's not just that. I mean, there's one media agency in New Zealand that I won't name. It in the last couple of years, it has published a review of a sandwich. It has published a story on whether you are doing your laundry properly and whether you are folding your towels
Oh,
properly.
there you go.
And I mean, Graham, I'm interested in your view on this. That is not journalism to me.
It's giving
That is just
BuzzFeed.
content for this. It's content for the sake of
Yeah.
content. And so look, 300 people out of work at News Hub, that is terrible. You know, these people are going to struggle
Oh,
to find
yeah.
jobs. There are some very well-respected, hard-working, long-serving journalists who have been on News Hub. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned about what this means for democracy, what it means for media generally. I'm concerned about what it means for a knowledgeable, informed, up-to-date public.
Right.
Why don't they go digital though? That's what I don't understand, right?
But that's kind of where it's going.
Right.
I mean, terrestrial TV as a medium
Yeah.
it's dying. No getting away from it. What I would like to see, and I don't think I will see it, but I hold out a little bit of hope, is that Sky TV, is the other big player in New Zealand's broadcast market, might scoop up some of those reporters and producers
I don't think so.
and say, "Oh, okay, we'll take you on," but they're not going to do it because, unfortunately, Sky, it's too easy for them just to take piped-in content from overseas.
Yeah, I worked at Sky
yeah,
for 25 years. I can't see that ever happening. I mean,
Yeah.
anything's possible, but it's very unlikely. And it's because from my point of view, when I arrived here in '94, I couldn't believe that TV1 and TV2 were run by the government and run by our tax money, and they were commercial entities. I mean, in the States, one thing we do have kind of right is the public broadcasting thing. We have PBS, which doesn't compete with the commercial. So TV3 was always doomed, I thought, because they just couldn't compete. They weren't playing on the same playing level field.
But it also the decision from Warner Brothers Discovery, it just shows the sheer brutality of corporate thinking.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's like they are so absolutely driven by profit, and I get it. I mean, they've been losing tens of billions of dollars for years, and no business can sustain that. But clearly, for Warner Brothers Discovery and some of the previous owners of TV3, the corporate desire to generate revenue and profit clearly supersedes anything about public good.
Yep, exactly right. So I think hopefully maybe it is a digital platform that all this stuff needs to be on eventually, and maybe somebody will come along, the newsroom folks, maybe they'll take some of these people in and turn themselves into a bigger platform that with the people that are obviously available and looking for work.
I have just one small comment to make, about the way our news is reported, and it's a very simple thing to observe. Our news will tell us, and when I say our, it's inverted commas, the news channels will tell us our Prime Minister and our government. Just think about that for a second. It's the Prime Minister and it is the government.
Yeah.
But somehow it is just our Prime Minister, our government. And that idea is just part of, I just think, an increasingly, isolationist, inward-looking aspect of this country, which I think has emerged in the past 5 years. Increasingly, we are insular.
Right.
We see ourselves and the rest of the world as something different and often dangerous. That's all I would want to say about that. I just think if we listen to the language that is being used about our government, our Prime Minister, I find that really, really uncomfortable. There's no objectivity in that at all.
Right.
Taking a side, Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Very good. All righty. Well, that
300 people just losing their jobs, though.
Yep.
That's wrong.
It is indeed.
That's a terrible thing to happen to those people.
And the rich keep getting richer. That's the fucked up thing about it, right?
Yep.
It's probably a song in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Paul Simon said, "A man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest."
Yep.
Paul Simon? Oh, I have to listen
Isn't
to that.
increasingly true?
Paul Simon?
Lila.
I have no idea who that is.
Paul Simon.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. I promise you, I'm not stupid. I'm
You're just young.
I'm not.
It's okay.
I'm not
You're just
that
young.
You'll get over it.
I'm 30 in 2 weeks. I'm not that young.
Oh, jeez.
You're taking medication.
What
you
was
said.
that? I heard
think
meds.
that's-
My ears pricked up when you said medication.
No. All right. Well, now I know what song to go out on. We'll play a little Simon & Garfunkel to take us to the end. Thank you all for doing this again. The sound thinking is what we need more of these days, and let's hope it spreads to the rest of the community as well, because things are not looking good. But thank you, and see you next week.
I am just a poor boy, though my story is seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises. All lies and jest, still a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest.